Turnbull is in southeast Queensland today, in Brisbane, in Eagleby. Let's take a listen.
Yugambeh Territory. I'd like to welcome the Prime Minister. I'd like to welcome the Minister for Employment, Michaelia Cash, William Harnish from Master Builders, and Brett from Painter Dixon. But most importantly, I'd like to welcome the young ladies that you see with us, who are women in construction, and that is why we're here today, to launch Women in Construction and to talk about the importance of having women in what traditionally would be called non-traditional roles for women. It's critically important that we create opportunities for women in our workforce, and so thanks everybody for coming along today. This is a terrific opportunity to celebrate what these young ladies are doing in the construction industry today, and it's a terrific testament to the opportunities that Painter Dixon have provided. So I'd like to hand over to the Prime Minister. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Bert, and it is great. What a great project, and we are here on Yugambeh land, and we acknowledge their elders, past and present, and all the Aboriginal people here today. This is a great project, and Painter Dixon are leading the way by employing more women in this traditionally very male industry. Women construction is a great venture, a great initiative, an industry-led initiative, and William Harnish from the Master Builders Association will say a bit more about it in a moment, as will the Minister for Women and the Minister for Employment, Michaelia Cash, on my right. But this is a critically important part of our agenda. Ensuring higher levels of female participation in the workforce, particularly in areas where, as Bert said, have been traditionally dominated by men, is critically important. Right across the board, diversity is important, and gender, respect for women, equal opportunity for women is vitally important to ensure that we get the best out of our 21st century economy, and our economic plan continues to deliver strong growth and strong growth in jobs. That is the objective of our economic plan for our 21st century economy. Now, one of the important elements too is ensuring that the rule of law prevails in the construction sector. It's important that workplaces are respectful and that there is an end to bullying and thuggery. Now, regrettably, the construction sector has not been one where the rule of law has prevailed everywhere. Indeed, 70% of industrial disputes are in the construction sector, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that because a number of unions have been able to ignore the law, ignore the provisions of industrial agreements, and get away with it. Because the Labor Party, when they came into government, abolished the strong cop on the beat, the Australian Building and Construction Commission. And that's why we have, as I said, 70% of all industrial disputes in the construction sector. Now, we can fix that. We will have at the election a clear choice. A coalition government, a Turnbull government returned to office, will ensure that the Australian Building and Construction Commission is restored. And once again, the rule of law will prevail. And there will be greater opportunities on building sites for women, for men, for tradies, for contractors, for everybody who wants to just get ahead and work hard in a respectful, law-abiding environment. That's the future that we're offering, one that will deliver stronger growth, more jobs in this 21st century economy. Michaelia.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and it is fantastic to be here today, in particular with William Harnish from the Master Builders Association and, of course, Painter Dixon, but more than that, with a number of women who are forging incredibly successful careers in the building and construction industry. Today, of course, we are here to announce a government and industry partnership in terms of getting more young women into the building and construction industry, and that is, of course, the Advancing Women in Building and Construction. This is an industry-led initiative, and Wilhelm will, of course, say a little bit more about that later. But the Turnbull government is committed to increasing women's workforce participation for so many reasons. We know that we need to meet our G20 25 by 25 commitment, but we also need to urgently address the gender pay gap. How we do that is in particular by getting more women into what are traditionally known as male-dominated roles. We say enough is enough. We want to see cultural change, and that's why we're here with Painter Dixon today. A third of their construction team are women. That is a fantastic effort, and I know that they're going to do more to increase those numbers. We know that at the moment, just 11% of employees in building and construction are women. And in terms of the exit rate from the industry, the rate of women exiting is 40% higher than men. And that is why industry-led partnerships like the Advancing Women in Building and Construction are just so important. In particular, though, as the Prime Minister has said, we need to see cultural change. This is the one industry in Australia where it has been proven time and time again that workplace laws do not apply. It does not matter if you're a man or if you are a woman. No person in Australia should have to come to work in an industry where the rule of law and workplace laws do not apply. And that is why we as a government are committed to seeing the re-establishment of the Australian Building and Construction Commission. We need to ensure that the rule of law is maintained and respected in this industry. But great to be here today, and very excited that this is a government and industry-led partnership to increase the number of women in building and construction. Wilhelm?
Wilhelm.
Well, thank you, Prime Minister, and thank you, Minister Cash. Master Builders is really pleased to partner with the Turnbull government in making sure that we have more women come into this industry. We have an exciting program that we developed in conjunction with Minister Cash. The industry, regrettably, only has about 1% of women in our workforce. This is something we need to turn around. What we're doing is we're denying young women and women generally the opportunity to take part of an exciting industry, an industry that is set to grow, and we would really like to see more women take that opportunity as key players in our construction industry. In terms of the Advancing Women in Building Industry program, it's a very exciting program. One of the things that we identified are a number of cultural barriers that both the Prime Minister and Minister Cash has talked about. There's an inbuilt bias, particularly by middle and senior managers, against women coming into this industry, and so I'm really, very proud of the way Painter Dixon has taken the lead in having a high ratio of women in their company, and they are to be congratulated. But we need more companies like Painter Dixon. We need more people at the senior managers level to encourage more women to come along. So the program is about a whole range of targeted education programs at middle managers in particular, also at parents, also at teachers, but also at practitioners. And of course, we're going to work with women themselves in making sure that they are aware of the opportunities that exist in this building industry. One of the key aspects of this program is that we will award special scholarships for women to enter Master Builders Building Simulation Centre. It's a state-of-the-art world learning centre where they can get a real-life experience on a building site where they're exposed to a whole range of building challenges, including industrial thuggery, in terms of dealing with that. So, in closing, can I thank the Prime Minister, can I thank Minister Cash for their confidence in Master Builders. We look forward to working with this government in making sure that we lift the 1% participation rate of women in this industry to come close to 50%.
Well, women may hold up half the sky, but all of the senatorial sky today is held up by women. So the other senator is Joe Lindgren from Queensland. Joe, come and say you've got some family here today.
I do. I have some distant cousins standing over there, and I'd like to welcome you to Yugambeh country, Prime Minister and Minister Cash. Today is a wonderful example of how the Turnbull government is working with industry to improve outcomes for women and women's participation in the future in the workforce. This project, Jumbulunga, is a very important project for Indigenous health, and it also shows how the Turnbull
Hello, I'm Joe O'Brien. You're watching ABC News 24. Just welcoming viewers from Western Australia. We're currently listening to a media conference that the Prime Minister is hosting. He's in the suburb of Eagleby, just to the south of Brisbane, near Beenleigh. He's got a host of people there who've been talking this morning. They'll be taking questions in a few minutes' time, so let's take a listen in.
Very
Very good. All right. Well, there you go. Okay. All right. Well, what do you want to tell us how good he is?
Come on, Gracie.
Yeah. Come on, Gracie. Yeah. Tell us about Painter Dixon and the difference between it and other firms in the construction sector, and what you found here.
Well, I've been with Painter Dixon for a year now. As someone who started an architecture degree 4 years ago, I was always being pigeonholed into just being design or being sent to residential where you'd only be employed working for yourself. But being part of a team, I've been told that I can be part of a whole project and learn how to work on teams and learn how to carry a project through from design into construction. And I've been given great mentors like Amanda, who help us and teach us how women, even though we may be not the typical role, we have special skills that make us unique and can offer to the construction industry.
Well, Amanda, come and tell us what do you say to all those young girls who are thinking about what they're going to do? What do you say about the opportunities in the construction and building industry?
I would definitely say don't be afraid. Don't let the men intimidate you. Confidence is the key, and come in and get your hands dirty because it's a great industry to be in. We have Director Brett, who is just always by our side. He has an open door policy. I'm pregnant, and there was no fear in telling him that I was pregnant. We've worked a strategy to return back to work, and I'm also I get a job to mentor this little superstar, which I thoroughly enjoy.
I love it.
Well, that's fantastic. Well done, Brett. So you're the sensitive new age employer. Do you have anything to add to these big raps you're getting?
Well, I think the ladies have spoken for me, but I think at the end of the day it's about embracing cultural change and awareness and keeping an open mind with anything. And the sky's the limit. And the women today, we've got women in senior management, and as we said earlier, a third of our construction management staff are women, and we're promoting that change, and they're the success and the growth of our business. And to continue to embrace that and be flexible with work hours, I think it's a testament to my team and for the women for embracing it.
Very good. Well, thank you. Well, congratulations, Painter Dixon, and congratulations, Wilhelm, on the program, Master Builders and ladies. So, do you have some for us? Well, certainly it hampers everybody's access, and it's clear that it does hamper women's access to the industry because as you were saying, you don't be intimidated by men. It's clearly one way to avoid being intimidated is to ensure that the rule of law applies. Workplaces should be respectful and they should comply with the law, and that doesn't matter where the workplace is. But particularly in the construction sector, there has been a huge problem, and you saw this in Brisbane City just a few days ago, where all the jobs in the city were shut down. It is the rule of law must prevail everywhere in Australia, and the construction sector is no exception. We know how to do it. We've done it before with the Building and Construction Commission, and a Turnbull government, re-elected on July 2nd, will return the ABCC, and that will return the rule of law to the construction sector.
Prime Minister, are you hoping to have the budget appropriation bills passed by the end of the next week, or are you happy to have the debate flow into the week after?
Well, we'll deal with all of that next week, but clearly we'd expect appropriation and supply to be dealt with in the appropriate way.
What did you think of Labor's talk of the reintroduction of the emissions trading? What did you think of that?
Well, what Labor is proposing to do is effectively another tax. I mean, they're going to, in order to deliver a near doubling of our emissions target, they will have to very significantly increase the cost of energy, the cost of electricity and all other power. So that is going to be another brake on the economy. Now let me make a couple of points about climate change. I take climate change very seriously. I take global warming very seriously. I take the challenge that the world faces to reduce emissions very seriously, and that is why in Paris I committed to Australia reducing its emissions by 2030 by 26 to 28%. Now that's a big number because we've got a strong population growth. In terms of per capita reductions of emissions, it's more than 50%. So it is a very substantial commitment. And all the countries of the world made commitments together. So we're all working together, moving forward. And that's clearly what you've got to do, because if one country strikes out on its own, it's not going to make any difference. It's got to be a global effort. You know, a tonne of CO2 has the same effect in the atmosphere, whether it's emitted in Brisbane or Sydney or Shanghai or London. So it's got to be a global effort. What Labor's proposing to do is unilaterally nearly double the commitment that we're making without any commitments from other countries. So they're going to unilaterally double it, unilaterally double the burden on Australians. And, of course, that comes with a very big cost. And the reality is that the approach we're taking is a responsible one. Responsible for Australia, for jobs, for our economy and the environment. So what will happen is there will be future conferences, and I have no doubt that emissions targets will move up. For 2040 and 2050, they'll move up in the decades ahead, but they should move up together. We should move up with the world, because if the world does not move together, then you won't get the outcome. So this is yet another economic handbrake that Labor is putting on our economy, another restraint on jobs, to add to all the other job-destroying measures that they're proposing. You know, their investment tax, their housing tax, right across the board. Everything Labor's proposed so far is going to make it harder for Australians to get ahead, harder for Australians to get a job.
Prime Minister, what will be the practical impact of the Manus Island port facility? How do you see that playing out?
Well, this is a matter that there's obviously initially a matter for the PNG government. We were not a party to the litigation, as you know, but this is something that's under consideration. We're getting briefed on it, and I'll be meeting with the Immigration Minister later today to go through it.
Whose responsibility is the procedure with those people? Is it PNG's responsibility or Australia's?
Well, they are Manus Island is part of Papua New Guinea. The responsibility is the PNG government's, but naturally we'll work with them, support them, but it's a matter that we've got to go through the judgment, got to go through the implications, what the options are for the PNG government. So I can't provide a definitive roadmap from here, but right today. But we're getting briefed on it, and I'll be discussing it with Mr. Dutton later today.
Last question.
Well, can I tell you, it's a very high priority, and there is no stronger advocate of the action on the M1 than this man here, Bert Van Manen. Very, very passionate, and he's so tall he's hard to ignore. So, but no, it's very high on the Infrastructure Australia priority list. It's being looked at very carefully, and we'll have more to say about it in the weeks ahead. Okay, thanks a lot.